UFC 292, Aljamain Sterling versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. Welcome to another UFC prediction and analysis video presented by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by Zan, I go by Harris as usual. Fight by fight breakdowns and analysis from that betting perspective specifically. We want to let you know which fights are worth the value, which ones to avoid, which underdog has the best shot at winning, and some parlay action towards the end of the video as well. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up. We definitely appreciate that. Make sure you subscribe to the channel here at Boxing MMA Picks as well. And most importantly, we're going to want to hear from you in the comments when it's all said and done. For this UFC pay-per-view event, it is taking place in Boston at the TD Garden. We have 12 fights overall. 7 of them are on the prelims. 5 of them are on the main card. They're also going to include the Ultimate Fighter finales. So we'll definitely get into those as well. But let's start with fight number 1 of our prelims. We're looking at Karine Silva versus Maryna Moroz. For Maryna Moroz, she lost to Jennifer Maia back in November. Pretty clean and technical with her boxing. She has good head movement, good in and out movement, good level changes, pretty light on her feet overall. Has a good jab, has good combinations that she works as well. She's effective with her striking. She has good pop, good consistent pressure. Definitely very confident on the feet. Also has an improved ground game, but less than a takedown per fight, as we can see here. Just 47% takedown defense to go along with that. So striking still very much her strong suit. She's going up against Karine Silva, who beat Ketlin Souza back in June. She's on a 7-fight winning streak at this point. 100% finish rate, 16 wins, 8 TKOs, 8 submissions. So definitely a finisher. Her striking is solid, good activity, good diversity. She fights at range, effective switch stance as well. She can be explosive. She has good power. Pretty long jab. She loves that overhand straight as well. Also a good grappler. She's good at finding those submission attempts. She landed 2 takedowns. Landed takedowns in each of her 2 fights, I should say. And also, effectively close distance in those takedown situations. So she is good at landing them. Really just a good all-around prospect. Good fight here. Both fighters are definitely skilled. That said, I don't really like this matchup for Maryna Moroz, mainly because of the difference in the ground game. I can see Karine Silva landing takedowns pretty much on command here. Legitimate submission threat to go along with that. Definitely think there's some value on Moroz. She could be the better striker here or just a more consistent striker. But I do believe that Silva's striking is more than capable enough to be dangerous. Not either way, whoever is better, it's not too big of a gap compared to, the gap that I believe exists with the ground game. So I think it's a good spot for Silva. I think it's good odds for Silva. I think it's a good likelihood that she gets the job done. So my pick is going to be Karine Silva to get us started.
Okay, so I definitely think this is a good step up in competition for Karine Silva. She's looking good in there. Her ground game is where it's at. She's strong physically for the weight class. She can be the stronger girl in there come Saturday. On the feet, Moroz might have the advantage technically, but Karine appears to be the more dangerous striker, the one that would hurt you. I like Karine in this spot. I definitely see Moroz having the advantage with the cardio. If this fight pushes, and Moroz comes on in the second half of the second round, wins the third. This fight could be one of those split decision type of fights. But I do expect Karine Silva to win the first 2 rounds, and I wouldn't be surprised she gets a finish. She looks for those. She has that dog I like. So I'm going to go Karine Silva here to get this win here.
Second fight of our prelims, Andrea Lee versus Natália Silva, women's flyweight fight here. Andrea Lee had that split decision loss to Maycee Barber. That was back in March. Definitely a close fight there. A lot of combinations, a lot of head movement, consistent with her jab, with her pace in general. She did look a bit slow, a bit reactive in her last fight. I'll say that. But she can land takedowns. She can wrestle. She lands 2 takedowns a fight, almost 60% on the accuracy side of things. She landed 5 takedowns in her last fight. for example. So definitely that could be a reliable weapon for her. That said, her takedown defense isn't the best, which could be relevant for this fight. Also, probably her biggest red flag is that her cardio historically not the best either. But she is tough. She is going to compete. She's someone that's going to make it a fight no matter who she's up against. Going up against Natália Silva in this case, who's on a 9-fight winning streak. She beat Victoria Leonardo back in May, introduced as a Taekwondo fighter. To that style, she is light on her feet. She fights from the outside. She has clean technique with her striking, really quick as well. Quick in her movement, quick in her striking, quick in her combinations. Her attack is probably, I would say, a kick-heavy game, but she has good power. She has good explosiveness all around. I do like that her movement is constant as well. Her pace is pretty constant to go along with that. I mentioned that she can land takedowns, although I wouldn't really say it's an active part of her game. To that point, though, she does have 7 submission victories in her 15 wins. So it shows when she does go for it, exactly how dangerous she can be on the ground. Also good takedown defense, good balance, good IQ when defending those takedowns, plus great cardio on top of that. I'll keep the prediction part of this short. I'm Natália Silva all day in this fight. I think that she pretty much determines where this fight goes. I think that she's going to be better pretty much everywhere. Not only does she have great takedown defense to stop Andrea Lee, but she can also land takedowns against Andrea Lee's 54% takedown defense. I think with the striking, Silva has better movement. She's a lot quicker. I think the difference in striking speed will be super evident. Plus, I think Silva's a lot more durable in terms of the cardio. So I can see Silva pretty much outpointing Andrea Lee throughout the fight, making Andrea Lee miss. I'm looking at a unanimous decision 30-27 type of fight. So Silva's going to be my pick on this one.
Yeah, skill for skill. Just the visuals, I definitely like Natália Silva, but Andrea Lee is she's a vet. She's fought the better fighters. Natália Silva, the best fighters she fought was Jasmine Jasudavicius, right? So that's her best win. She beat Teresa Bleda, Victoria Leonardo. Well, those two aren't that level, and Jasmine's looking pretty good, so that's a good win. That's aging well. But her competition level is pretty low compared to who Andrea Lee had to deal with. Andrea Lee getting a win against Cynthia Calvillo, Antonina Shevchenko. Some of these fights, these split decisions that she does have, some of them should have gone her way. But she's competitive in these fights, most of these fights. So she can definitely vet her way on paper. She has a big advantage with the experience, the level of opposition. So on paper, she definitely has that. But on the feet, the visuals, I think on the feet, Silva has a big advantage in the striking. Just the movement she has, the power she's able to generate with that small stature, her movement, her speed, and she actually has good takedown defense, and she has wrestling herself, jiu-jitsu as well. So I think she's pretty covered in this fight. Her movement's going to give Andrea Lee a lot of problems. She's going to land a lot of flush shots, significant strikes here. So I'm going to go Natália Silva. I'm with her. She definitely should get this done because I think she has every advantage. The only thing is on paper, Lee has the harder schedule. She's fought the better fighters and she has the experience. But I'm going to go Natália Silva based on what I've seen.
Third fight of our prelims, end of the early prelims. It's going to be Andre Petroski versus Gerald Meerschaert. Meerschaert lost to Joe Pyfer back in April. Pretty basic with his striking, below average, in my opinion, in the striking department. He leaves his chin up. He can get clipped, but he is getting a bit more effective. He does fight at a pretty effective distance, kind of forces his opponents to engage. Ultimately, he's going to use as much stand-up as needed to try to get in close, try to land those takedowns. You see the numbers there, over 2 takedowns a fight, almost 40% on the accuracy side of things. And he's good on top, especially threatening with those submissions that he has. We know he has a good, reliable guillotine, good, reliable submissions in general. 35 professional wins, 27 of them via submission. We'll speak to that. But he's going up against Andre Petroski, who is a pretty well-rounded fighter, who's on a 4-fight winning streak, who beat Wellington Turman back in November. Now, striking-wise, he does have good aggression, good pace. He likes to come forward, big power in his striking, a lot of switch stance as well. But he also has a strong wrestling base, right? Good at getting takedowns, good decent top control, very comfortable on the ground. That's definitely his strength. Legitimate grappling to go along with that. Half of his wins are via submission. He sets up his submissions well, good positioning, good patience, I should say, in setting up those submission attempts. Now, his cardio historically not the best. That's what has costed him in a couple of fights, but his pacing is a bit better. He is able to at least effectively wrestle and grapple throughout 3 rounds at this point, which definitely works out well for him. Now, stylistically, I think this is a great matchup for Andre Petroski. I feel pretty confident in picking him. I know that Meerschaert, of course, is a threat with the striking, but Petroski, sorry, with the grappling, I should say, with the submissions, but Petroski, the more dangerous striker for sure. Plus, Meerschaert doesn't really have enough of a striking pace or enough pressure to kind of stop Petroski from what he wants to do. Petroski also the better wrestler for sure. Plus, Meerschaert only has 29% takedown defense. And I think the grappling on the side of Petroski is good enough to sort of keep himself out of danger from Gerald Meerschaert's really only way to win the fights, which is the submissions. Again, cardio-wise, Petroski not the best, but I don't think Meerschaert really pushes a high pace to force Petroski to get too gassed here. So I can see, really 3 rounds of top control for Andre Petroski. I think he's a smarter fighter, since his first fight in the UFC. If he doesn't knock Meerschaert out and if he doesn't do anything silly, he should get it done relatively easily. So Andre Petroski is going to be my pick here.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Petroski and the reasoning. This is mainly going to be a grappling fight, I think so. It's maybe in that area most of the time. On the feet, like you said, Petroski's striking is more dangerous. Physically, he's going to be the stronger guy, and he has the better grappling. So, and most importantly, that wrestling advantage. So I'm going to go Petroski here. Cardio is a concern, but I think he might be able to get a submission here. Get this guy out of here early. If not, I think he can get at least 2 rounds. Meerschaert does not put on like a really crazy pace. So I think Petroski should be able to go the 3 rounds here and dictate where the fight goes. So I'm with you, man. I'm going with Andre Petroski.
All right, let's move on to prelim fight number 4. So we're getting into our Ultimate Fighter finale fights now. First one being Brad Katona versus Cody Gibson. Cody Gibson pretty patient with his stand-up. Don't really expect too much pressure, too much pace, or really too much activity with his striking. But, he does have that switch that can kind of allow him to get aggressive, to push the pace. Usually trying to be that fighter that's trying to come forward to that point. Pretty much looking to look for those opportunities to come in close, to work the clinch, close distance, solid ground game as well. He can definitely land takedowns, good activity with his top control, and he can find those submissions as well. A lot of similar things can be said about Brad Katona, though. I would say his striking is sort of okay by MMA standards. Look for him to close distance. Difference with him, he definitely pushes the action forward a bit more. I wouldn't say his technique is the cleanest, but he does commit to that forward pressure, decent amount of activity to go along with it. He can work the clinch, he can land takedowns, good toughness, good cardio, definitely on the side of Brad Katona. Overall, I'd say I'm not really too high on either of these fighters, to be quite honest. I do think that they have similar skill sets in some ways. I think they both can land takedowns on each other. I think that they can both capitalize with the striking on each other because, again, neither person is amazing in that department. But Brad Katona, I think, just has a pace and a level of activity that I like better. Can't really be a confident pick on either side, but my pick is going to be Brad Katona here because I think, again, he's going to be the busier fighter, at least with the striking, and more than durable to keep that up for multiple rounds. And I think he's going to end up pulling out the victory really just with more hustle, with more activity. So Brad Katona is going to be my pick here.
Yeah, definitely a fight at this level where both guys are good. Both guys have ways to win. Cody Gibson has that dog in him. Big guy for the division. He has some advantages in this fight. Katona, I definitely like his work rate. I like his IQ here. I think he can move around enough to eke out a decision here, mix in some grappling if he needs to. I think he can avoid getting taken down. So I think he's the one that can kind of cause Gibson problems with his movement and eventually get on top, man. He does have a ground game as well. So I'm gonna go Brad Katona here to get the win.
Prelim fight number 5, Ultimate Fighter fight number 2. Let's talk Kurt Holobaugh versus Austin Hubbard. Holobaugh, 36 years old, so his skill set and his style pretty much is what it is at this point. He likes to come forward. He likes to be the aggressor. Pretty clean with his boxing, good hands, good jab, covers up well. He's looking to engage, though. He's looking for almost like a bit of a brawl, right? He throws in combinations. He's got solid power to go along with that. The ground IQ is there as well. He can land takedowns, 9 of his 19 wins via submission. Decent guard as well if he's taken down. He stays busy. He can scramble his way back up if he's taken down. Austin Hubbard, on the other hand, solid striking as well. Pretty diverse with his striking. He's going to use a lot of fakes and feints, going to use a lot of level changes, going to use a lot of combinations, pretty clean with his movements as well. Also has a good steady pace about him. And I like the way that Austin Hubbard picks his shots. He can also land takedowns. His takedown defense looks improved, but a bit vulnerable in that department. But definitely looked improved in his time on Ultimate Fighter. I think we're looking at a close fight here. Two fighters with similar skill sets. Two fighters that can do a bit of everything. Two fighters who prefer to strike, but like I said, they can also do a bit of everything, right? They're also two fairly straightforward fighters as well. I expect Holobaugh to be more forceful and with the forward pressure, maybe even the pace as well. I expect Hubbard likely to be able to dictate where this fight goes, though. I think his takedowns are better than Holobaugh's. I think his takedown defense is better than Holobaugh's, and I think that's ultimately what's going to determine this fight. I look at Austin Hubbard versus Roosevelt Roberts, for example, in the semifinals of Ultimate Fighter, and I think about that fight, different style of striker for sure. But because Roosevelt had the better of the striking moments in that first round, it led to Hubbard using that takedown approach in the second round, in the third round. So I think that we can see a similar approach where if Holobaugh's striking, the forward pressure, the pace, etc., is more effective, is getting the better of Austin Hubbard in round 1, I think that Hubbard can make those adjustments in rounds 2 and 3 to implement the takedowns more, and sort of point his way to a decision. I think it's going to be a close fight either way, but I'm going to side with Austin Hubbard on this one.
Yeah, this is definitely gonna be a close fight. I can see both guys having their moments in the fight. Holobaugh has that dog in him. He wants to get in close. He does have dangerous shots when he gets in close, when he gets in range. I do think Austin has the more technical, the better technical striker out of the two, but I believe Holobaugh is the more effective one because of his style. He has that dog. He's going to move forward. He's going to land, and he does have power to hurt you. He's not scared to get hit as well. But the difference in this fight is the grappling with Hubbard. I think Hubbard can get those takedowns in this fight based off of Kurt's aggression. And I think Hubbard can get a lot of points on the mat here. I think he can get him down, get some points, hold him down, maybe even look for a finish. But even on the feet, I think Hubbard can hold his own. So I got to go with Hubbard having more ways to win this fight. So Hubbard's my pick here.
Fight number 6 of the prelims, Gregory Rodrigues versus Denis Tiuliulin. Gregory Rodrigues he lost to Bruno Ferreira back in January. Good overall fighter, definitely dangerous, good stand-up, good grappling, ton of power. Look for him to control center of the octagon. Good feints, good fakes. The jab is effective. The combinations are dangerous. Over 2 takedowns per fight at 50% accuracy. So those are definitely there. 100% takedown defense to go along with it. And he's a BJJ black belt. Physically strong. Cardio is definitely something to watch with him. The chin is probably his biggest red flag, though. Of his 5 losses, 3 of them via KO, TKO, including his last fight. So got to be careful with that if you're Gregory Rodrigues, despite how talented he is. Denis Tiuliulin lost to Junyoung Park back in February. He's a good striker. He's introduced as a striker. Good jab. He's going to look for that overhand right as well. He presses forward, forces the action a bit. Sometimes good power though. He's explosive. 9 of his 11 wins via KO, TKO. Not really high activity or high pace per se. Also, although he's Russian, don't really expect the wrestling out of him. Although, pretty decent at the takedown defense. He can be a bit basic. He can be a bit one-dimensional to that point. I will say this, Gregory Rodrigues should get the job done here as the more complete MMA fighter. But I am a little worried if I'm on the betting side of Gregory Rodrigues, especially at these odds. Minus 350 should be sweat-free, right? Rodrigues is a huge favorite for a reason, but Tiuliulin at the end of the day is a striker with good power, and Gregory Rodrigues can be chinny, right? So a Tiuliulin KO, it wouldn't surprise me at all. But my pick has to be the smarter pick, which is Gregory Rodrigues, who realistically should get the job done here. The same way that Junyoung Park, for example, was able to just land a takedown and finish the fight right away against Denis Tiuliulin. Gregory Rodrigues is going to have a lot of opportunities to essentially do the same thing, right? Rodrigues can also win with the striking. He can be more than dangerous enough in any department that he wants to be to win this fight here. So Gregory Rodrigues should get it done, but at these odds, I definitely cannot advocate adding this on parlays.
Yeah, I actually like Gregory in this fight, man. I'm pretty sure he gets this one done, man. Denis gets submitted a lot in his losses. And we know that Gregory Rodrigues has a higher level of grappling than these guys that are submitting him. Got submitted by Junyoung Park, Aliskab, Kizriev, Ikram, Aliskarov. But Gregory Rodrigues is a high level black belt, and I see him doing the same thing. And I don't think Tiuliulin can stop the takedowns. Right, so I'm definitely on the Gregory side. The age is on his side as well. He looks much older, but he's only 31. Tiuliulin's 35, has a big grappling advantage. On the feet, Tiuliulin is the better striker, but Rodrigues is the more dangerous striker. He can definitely hold his own there. But I definitely see Rodrigues going straight to the grappling pretty early and getting some damage, maybe get a finish with strikes on the ground. But I definitely like Gregory to get this one. Gregory to get the win here.
All right, let's talk final fight of our prelims. Chris Weidman versus Brad Tavares. Weidman, over 2 years since he last fought. That was to Uriah Hall. That's when he broke his leg, if you remember that fight. Based on what we were seeing back then, because of course he hasn't been active since, his stand-up almost looked like an improved, newer type of style. We know that he's very close with Wonder Boy, starting to train with him, so we can see some of that leak into his striking. I would say better striking defense, better distance control, better in and out movement. I'm being cautious with those statements because striking is still not a natural thing for him. It's still not average. Even I would say it's still below average. We know that Weidman's a wrestler in the purest sense. He's going to go after that single leg specifically. Great top control, almost 4 takedowns a fight, almost 50% accuracy. So he's definitely going to rely on his strengths, which is the wrestling, which is the ground game. Going up against Brad Tavares, who lost to Bruno Silva back in April. 2-fight losing streak now for Brad Tavares. Solid stand-up, good boxing, good kickboxing. The technique is pretty consistent. Good decision-making. He's patient. He's poised. He sets up his shots pretty well. The ground IQ is there, although it's not overwhelming. Less than a takedown per fight. The takedown defense is also there at 80%, which will be very relevant for this fight. Expect him to keep it on the feet, though, right? Again, he's consistent, including his cardio. Both guys are a bit up there in age. I mean, 39 years old on the side of Weidman, 35 years old on the side of Brad Tavares. You always got to wonder what a fighter his age, and I'm talking Chris Weidman here, is going to look like after a 28-month layoff and a broken leg, right? So to me, this fight I think just has to favor Brad Tavares, not only for that reason, but also because again the takedown defense is pretty solid, and he should be the much better striker here. I can see a situation where Weidman is landing takedowns, early on in the fight, but then Tavares starts to defend them as the fight goes on. It's just a question of, does Weidman successfully land takedowns for 2 rounds? My answer is going to be no. I think that's too big of an ask for, against a fighter with historically good takedown defense. Given the circumstances on the side of Weidman with the time off and just the age in general, I'm not sure if this is a retirement fight for Weidman, but I don't really anticipate him winning. And I do anticipate him retiring after this one. So Brad Tavares is going to be my pick.
Yeah, it's a tough fight in the sense that Weidman's been out. Weidman at his best can beat Tavares. Weidman definitely should be able to throw some power, but hasn't really knocked anybody out in years, right? So that part of the game, they say strength leaves last. He's old, so he should have some power, but again, he hasn't knocked anybody out in a while. I think he needs a knockout to win this fight. On his Instagram, he looks like he's in good shape. He's in decent shape. He's ready. I'm not sure though if he can go the 3 rounds with the wrestling. I'm not sure he's gonna be able to knock out Tavares, who has a pretty durable chin, and Tavares has good takedown defense as well. And on the feet, I think Tavares will be landing the better shots. He's gonna be landing the counters. He has a smoother boxing out of the two at this point. So I'm gonna be going with Brad Tavares here, doing enough, keeping it on the feet, and I see him hurting Chris Weidman because I'd rather go that route because Weidman we haven't seen him in some time. So I can't put any faith on a Weidman. So I got to go with Tavares. The odds, the minus 270 on Tavares, I don't like. So I probably won't bet this big. But Tavares should get this done here against Weidman coming back from a serious injury.
All right, so let's move on then to our main card. We got 5 fights overall on the main card. Let's start with fight number 1, which is Marlon Vera versus Pedro Munhoz. Marlon Vera split decision loss to Corey Sandhagen back in March. Very relaxed in the stand-up, a lot of switch stance. He's going to throw a fair amount of kicks. They've been a great weapon for him in his last several fights. Also has a good jab, good counter puncher. Look for the activity in the clinch with good elbows, good knees. He can put on that forward pressure, but very patient with his setups. We also can't forget that he is considered a grappler. Just 1 takedown per fight, but he can grapple, whether it's fighting off a takedown, effective defensive guard, or submission attempts. Right? He does have good IQ. He does have a lot of toughness. His cardio holds up. Definitely one of the better fighters in the division. Pedro Munhoz beat Chris Gutierrez back in April. He's a solid veteran in his own right. Sets his game up with a very active calf kick, good stand-up overall. He's patient. He is willing to kind of start slow, read his opponents, see what's going on, see if he can find the timing. He does sit on his strikes a bit, kind of punches, one at a time in some ways. I like his striking defense. I like his in and out movement on the feet. Not really looking for takedowns, just half a takedown per fight. Also good takedown defense to keep fights on the feet. So really, with both of these fighters stylistically, just expect a lot of striking in this one. Chito didn't look great in his last fight, albeit a tough opponent in Corey Sandhagen. But, Vera just kind of looked a step behind. He wasn't really able to make adjustments. His guard didn't look great. Luckily for Vera, Pedro Munhoz is not Corey Sandhagen, right? I think what Munhoz does have going for him is that he just came off of a win against a good striker in Chris Gutierrez. But Marlon Vera is a much higher level of opponent, all things considered, compared to Chris Gutierrez. Munhoz, 36 years old, not really pushing the same pace that he was in his prime. I think that's going to be an advantage for Marlon Vera to be able to set up his offense. a bit more. Like I said, I don't anticipate either fighter looking for takedowns much throughout this fight. Marlon Vera is going to be my pick here, but bit of a shaky pick in my opinion. I kind of have to trust that he's going to have a better performance compared to his last fight. I have to believe that what worked for Munhoz against Gutierrez won't work against Vera, because Vera can be more threatening with the striking, can kind of push the pace a bit more, can kind of push the forward pressure a bit more. I also have to believe that age is going to play a factor here, and that Munhoz, again, just doesn't really have the pace to cause Vera issues. It is a high level fight to that point. Anything can happen to that point. I'm not overly impressed with Vera's style and tactics to that point. But Marlon Vera, I think, is going to be the smarter pick here, and he is going to be my pick.
Yeah, I think I think Marlon Vera 5 rounds is a different Marlon Vera for 3 rounds. Marlon Vera almost lost to Edgar in a 3-round fight. And I think Pedro Munhoz much more durable than Frankie Edgar, but I think he can push the same type of strategy against Vera and getting some counters going, his movement. And we know that Vera starts really slow that first round. I'm not sure Vera can rally up in a 3-round fight. I could see Munhoz banking the first 2 rounds and just surviving, just staying afloat. Now, again, Vera, that 3rd-round power that he carries, he's definitely going to win that round, I believe. He's going to be putting it on in that round. But he could be down 2 rounds. So I'm going to go with the underdog. I'm going to take Pedro Munhoz, possibly winning that first 2 round and then just surviving the 3rd round. And these guys both can grapple. They both don't go that route. So we're going to see a lot of striking unless someone changes the pace here in this fight. And I could see Pedro Munhoz, after seeing Vera get taken down, I could see Pedro Munhoz coming with that strategy, just coming here just to get the win, because this is a big fight ranking-wise. So I'm going to go Pedro Munhoz pulling off the upset in this fight.
Fight number 2 of the main card, Damon Blackshear versus Mario Bautista. Damon Blackshear beat Jose Johnson. Yes, that was just last week. Good patient striking. Doesn't really rush things. Not too active, but he does pick his shots well. A lot of fakes and feints. Commits to that forward pressure. He can definitely be explosive as well. He's a good grappler. 9 of his 14 wins via submission, including last week's fight. Comfortable with that clinch approach. He can definitely land takedowns. Takedown defense, not great, but he is active off of his back, looking for those submissions if he is taken down. And he is good with scrambling and positional work and working his way back up and reversing position and, really just being active on the ground, regardless of the position that he's in. Mario Bautista, on the other hand, beat Guido Canetti. That was back in March. He's on a 4-fight winning streak. Good boxing, good movement, good fakes and feints, good distance control, fights from the center of the octagon more times than not. Definitely has that striking IQ. I think he picks shots really well. I think he has good combinations. I think his cardio is looking good, especially that he pushes a good pace on his opponents. And the wrestling has been looking really solid. He averages almost 3 takedowns a fight, almost 70% on the accuracy side. So it's letting you know that he's getting those takedowns whenever he wants them. Again, a really good, well-rounded fighter that's been looking especially good lately. Damon Blackshear, I mentioned, fought just last week. I mean, of course, that means this is a short notice fight for him. So, I mean, still should be in shape. I mean, just fought last week, like I mentioned. And, just like last week, I think the key for Blackshear is going to be the takedowns. Mario Bautista, 62% takedown defense. So he can be a bit vulnerable there. Blackshear can definitely find success in that approach. I think the difference here is that whereas, Blackshear's opponent last week was only a striker, Mario Bautista can do a bit of everything, including good wrestling offensively. 3 takedowns in his last fight, 10 takedowns over his last 4 fights. I can see Bautista being the one landing takedowns here, because we can't forget Damon Blackshear just 54% takedown defense. I think with the striking, Blackshear, kind of same comments as last week. Blackshear is a threat, but I do believe that Bautista should be the better striker here, should be the more effective striker here as well. Bautista should be leading the pace and the aggression, should be landing the takedowns throughout this fight as needed. So I like Bautista here to get the job done. Just better overall, more tools, or I guess more effective tools. And I think he's going to be able to use it. And I think back-to-back weeks for Blackshear is probably not the best idea. So Mario Bautista is going to be my pick to get the job done here.
I actually give Blackshear a big chance in this fight. I think his grappling, his strength is going to be could be a big thing in this fight. He should be able to take down. He should be able to get some takedowns against Mario Bautista. And what he does with those takedowns, we're going to find out. And he has submissions, he has finishes. He's a good grappler all around. And in this fight, he's going to have that grappling advantage. He's going to have I think the wrestling advantage as well. But Bautista is improving that area. He came to the UFC having a hole, that wrestling, and then he clearly improved using that to win his past couple of fights. So he's definitely working on that wrestling. I'm not sure if Blackshear is going to be able to get takedowns easily. But I have seen Bautista get taken down. And I think there's a possibility that Blackshear can definitely go that route, win the fight. So usually I take Bautista. He's one of those guys that is reliable. You can put him on those parlays, but because of the matchup, for me, I got to be careful. If this fight is 8 minutes on the ground and Blackshear's on top, well, regardless of what he's doing, he's going to win that round. And at that point, we need a finish out of from Bautista. I think Bautista gets it done, man. I think his grappling improvements should be enough to hold this. Like what Harris said, Blackshear's well, he already cut weight and then he's cutting weight again. That's not going to be good on the body. So he might not be able to go 3 rounds at the pace he needs. Bautista's no joke. He's a really good fighter. So I definitely see Bautista holding his own and beating him on the feet because he's definitely the much better striker out of the two. So Bautista has a big advantage there. So Bautista is my pick here in this spot.
The third fight of the main card, Neil Magny, Ian Machado Garry, I should say. Magny beat Phil Rowe back in June. This is going to be a short notice fight for Neil Magny, but he just fought 8 weeks ago. So not too bad on the body there. He is a well-rounded fighter. He can do a bit of everything. Long, rangy striker in the stand-up, long jab, light on his feet. He's going to use his kicks effectively. Decent overall ground game as well, although I won't say it's dominant in any way. He can land takedowns, over 2 takedowns per fight, which is going to be very relevant for this fight. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Just 56% takedown defense, which probably would not matter in this fight. Can't forget to mention that he does have great cardio as well, as well as that sort of constant activity approach to his style. Ian Garry beat Daniel Rodrigues back in May. Quick hands, good movement, good long jab, good kicks, good striking speed, good accuracy as well, and good technique. He fights off that back foot quite a bit, but he does have good footwork, bit of a stick and move type of style. Sharp combinations, good striking IQ. He can handle, pressure fighters that are trying to put that pressure on him with that outside movement that he has. And now in terms of his takedown defense, not great, just 63% takedown defense. Just 1 takedown landed in 5 UFC fights. So he is very much a striker. Now Ian Garry should be a pretty comfortable pick here. Not just because of the short notice for Neil Magny. Neil Magny, whereas he was able to take advantage of a Phil Rowe type of fighter who has holes in his striking technique, Ian Garry is going to be that type of fighter that won't really present those same opportunities for Neil Magny. I do expect Garry to be much faster here, much more dynamic, not only with the striking, not only with the combinations, but also with his movement, especially at this point in Neil Magny's career. Again, like I said, Neil Magny may be able to work the clinch. He may be able to land takedowns. We know he can compete for 15 minutes. So he's definitely live as an underdog, right? He's a veteran. He knows how to game plan. And you're getting amazing underdog odds on Neil Magny. Let's just be honest here, at plus 370. But, I do think that Ian Garry has to be the pick here. I think that this run that he's on, it's legitimate. He is increasing his skill set with each fight that passes. And any fight with steep odds is going to make me a little bit nervous, but Ian Garry, I'm liking pretty comfortably in this spot. I think he avoids or he doesn't make Neil Magny turn into a wrestler for this one. I think he's too dynamic, too quick, and I think he potentially finishes Neil Magny. So I'm going Ian Garry to continue the win streak, to continue the undefeated streak, and to get the win here.
Yeah, Ian Garry all day. He's gonna be aware of the space between them. He's gonna have good movement. Magny does not have the best wrestling takedowns. He has to really get close. And like you said, here Garry has that speed. He's gonna connect if Magny wants to come in with a hugging body lock takedown because Gary's too quick for that. You're gonna have to come with sharp shots at his legs to get him down. And I don't think Magny has that game against Garry, who's going to be gauging distance really well, picking him apart from distance, lighting him up on the feet with his boxing. I really like Garry in this spot. I think he's the. I'm not saying he's going to be the champion, but I definitely think he's. I definitely think he's the real deal. I think he's the real deal, and I think a fight like this is a fight that he's going to be able to win. He's going to keep it on the feet. Fight stays on the feet. Garry has a big advantage. Gary's my pick here.
Let's move on to fight number 4 of the main card, our co-main event of the evening, women's strawweight title fight, Zhang Weili versus Amanda Lemos. For Zhang Weili, she beat Carla Esparza back in November to regain that strawweight title. High level striking, high IQ, just really good all around, good movement, good footwork, good combinations, good flow, good pace to her striking. She's usually trying to press that action forward, has constant pressure, good groundwork as well, good offensive wrestling, good takedowns. She's comfortable on the ground, good top control. She's good at scrambling if she's taken down. Good grappling and submissions when necessary. Really, again, just a complete fighter and definitely a champion for a reason. Amanda Lemos, on the other hand, beat Maryna Rodrigues back in November. On the feet, she fights in the pocket. She's going to look to keep that distance close. Her hands stay pretty tight. She's going to try to march her opponents down a bit. Really likes to engage and throw a lot of combinations with a lot of power. Physically strong. She's going to use that to her advantage, with her wrestling, with her grappling. To that point, just over a takedown per fight. 55% on the accuracy side of things. She's also a BJJ black belt. She also has 81% takedown defense. So just legitimately credentialed with respect to her ground IQ, even though most of her fights stay standing. If she's taken down, good defensive guard, good ability to scramble, get back up as well. Lemos, as legit as they come in this division. I think she's definitely a worthy and a dangerous title challenger here. Has big power, has good striking IQ. And I mean, we've seen Zhang Weili finish before, right? But I think that Lemos' only chance realistically in this fight is that puncher's chance. She's never really landed more than 2 takedowns in a fight, so I can't rely on her to turn into a wrestler for 5 rounds. And outside of that, I think Zhang Weili, more dynamic, more active as a striker. I think Zhang Weili is smart enough to avoid the danger, and to essentially outpoint Amanda Lemos throughout the fight. In addition to being that striking threat that Amanda Lemos has never really gone up against before. I can see cardio playing a huge factor in this fight. I can see Amanda Lemos slowing down as this fight goes on. So Zhang Weili, I mean, she's going to be my pick here pretty comfortably outside of a puncher's chance. I'll say this, I'll say be careful. It is women's MMA. It is a title fight. It is a co-main event. It is a high-level fight. So there's a lot of factors that have shown to be able to go either way, especially this year. But Zhang Weili, skill for skill on paper, just too many factors in her favor. I think she's going to be a fairly comfortable pick for me. Although in a high-level fight, I wouldn't be surprised either way. So I'm going Zhang Weili to retain her title. And again, I do feel pretty comfortable with that.
Yeah, definitely. I see Weili Zhang being the more well-rounded fighter. She has, I think she should have the better wrestling in this game, in this matchup. She has good striking, the speed. I just think she's a bit more well-rounded, also with that cardio advantage. The experience as well at that in the 5 rounds is huge. Amanda Lemos, I think has the boxing advantage. I think she has the harder hands. I think she has the heavier hands. I don't think Weili Zhang has faced a fighter with this type of power that Amanda's gonna be throwing. And on the other side, though, Weili has really good kicks and Weili has really good speed. And this is going to be the highest, like Harris said, the best fighter that Lemos has fought. Lemos looked good in her last fight against Maryna. Was it Maryna Rodrigues? Came through as a underdog in that fight. First round close, second round she won with grappling. Third round she put her away. Um, this is a tough fight. I think how you got to look at it is if this fight stays on the feet and if the pace isn't that fast, and Weili Zhang may fight smarter knowing that Lemos has power. So if the pace is slowed down, if Lemos can kind of use that power to kind of keep Weili Zhang cautious, we might get a slower pace fight. If you look at the fight Lemos had with Maryna Rodrigues, she came out really slow in that first round, just trying to save her cardio. It was a 5 round fight. I think she's going to come into this fight with the same idea. She's not going to overexert herself unless she has Weili Zhang hurt. Weili Zhang definitely should win this fight here. She's one of the pound for pound fighters in the UFC. But I think if this fight stays on the feet, Lemos has a really good chance with that boxing, with that power. I'm going to go with the underdog here. I'm going to take a shot here. Again, Weili Zhang should win this fight. But I'm just looking at the fight in a way that if this fight stays on the feet, the odds should be a lot closer. And if there's not that much grappling, Lemos might be able to go 4 rounds at least, or 3 rounds. She might be able to get those rounds with her power. And at that point, might even hurt her. And don't forget, Lemos has good submissions, good grappling. She is a jiu-jitsu black belt. So I'm going to go Lemos here to pull off the upset here.
All right, let's move on to our main event of the evening of this UFC 292 event, Aljamain Sterling versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. Sterling split decision win over Henry Cejudo. That was back in May. 9 wins in a row now at this point. Bit of an awkward style with respect to his striking, a lot of switch stance, very dynamic, very active with his movement. He fights at range. The kicks are a primary weapon to his offense. He has a long jab, long 1-2s. His strength, of course, is in his wrestling. He's physically strong. He's athletic. His transitions are high level. He's especially good when when he has control of your back. And I would say don't really let the numbers fool you. We see just 2 takedowns a fight, or per 15 minutes, I should say. Just 24% on the accuracy side. Also, just 45% takedown defense. But he's as high level as they come when it comes to using the ground game to his advantage and to win rounds and to ultimately win fights. O'Malley split decision win over Petr Yan back in October. Of course, that is the infamous fight. Everyone had Petr Yan as the winner of that one. It is important to mention that because that's potential judging influence on the side of Sean O'Malley, which is relevant. He's an elite striker, though. Good high level of technique, super dynamic, light on his feet, good distance control. He fights from the outside. He mixes up his offense well, throws a lot of fakes and feints, really good timing, really good counter punching as well. You definitely got to respect his power. 10 of his 16 wins are via KO TKO. And to that point, that striking really is the only facet to his game. I think the key stat for this fight is Sean O'Malley's 60% takedown defense. And simply put, it's not good enough. Unfortunately for Sean O'Malley, I think that alone is going to dictate how this fight goes, right? I mean, O'Malley, absolutely the better striker. Let's make that clear. Aljo is quick and awkward and can be hard to time, but O'Malley will definitely have the striking advantage in this fight. But Sterling's ground advantage is just too hard to ignore here. He should be able to find ground control really in every round, should be able to land takedowns in every round. And outside of like a wildly biased judging on the side of Sean O'Malley, I don't see how Sean O'Malley wins this fight. Now, of course, the more elite striker can catch Sterling, can hurt Sterling, can, have his moment, so to speak. But if you just think about how the fight should go, to me, I'm looking at a 49-46 type of scoring in favor of Aljamain Sterling, if not 50-45. I think, again, at some point, he's going to, get the takedown, get the top control, win the round. So Aljamain Sterling, I think, retains his title, and gets the win here.
It's a really tricky fight. Whenever Weili Zhang fights, there's always a massive upset on that card, and it's one of those nights that this could be the fight. And if O'Malley survives the onslaught early on, if he does enough to keep it on the feet, he's the better striker, and he could hurt. He could hurt him. He could hurt him. He definitely could hurt Aljamain Sterling. And just like in boxing, the Crawford versus Spence fight, Spence was talking about moving up in weight, that he's too big for the division. It's happening here as well, where O'Malley is big, but he's not talking about leaving the division. Sterling is clearly way too big for this division. He's definitely cutting a lot of weight to make the weight class. And who knows if it has a toll on him. If his cardio is shot, if something happens where he can't go past 3 rounds and he really slows down and he can't get the takedowns, O'Malley could have a field day. And this fight could be O'Malley could look good in this fight if something happens on the Sterling side with his weight cut, with him being too big for the weight class. But ultimately, I'm not going to take a Hail Mary shot here. Sterling has a big wrestling advantage on the feet. If you're going to give these guys ratings out of 10, I'll say O'Malley's a 8 or 9. I'll say Sterling's a 6.5, 7. But I'll say like a 6.5. But on the mat, when it comes to the grappling, Sterling's a 8 or 9, and we're looking at O'Malley at like a 3 or 4, right? So there's a big advantage there. Sterling has that championship pedigree. He's gone the 5 rounds. I don't think he's going to have much resistance getting these takedowns as well. So I'm going to go with Sterling. I think in this fight, O'Malley needs to really land. He really needs a lot of things going for him in this fight. Landing that perfect shot, or Sterling not able to go at a pace no more because he's too big for the weight class. He needs something to win this fight. If they come into this fight healthy, fresh, I see Sterling win this fight here 9 times out of 10. So I'm going to go Aljamain Sterling here to backpack, get him on the mat, backpack. If not, ground and pound, rinse and repeat. So Sterling's my pick. And am I confident? Yeah, I think he gets it done, man. I'm pretty confident here.
All right. On that note, let's take it to Vegas. Let's have a conversation about some underdog odds as well as some parlays that we're potentially looking at. Starting with the underdogs, of course, I will read them out. Maryna Moroz is an underdog in the Karine Silva fight. Andrea Lee is an underdog versus Natália Silva. Gerald Meerschaert is an underdog. Holobaugh is an underdog. Denis Tiuliulin, Chris Weidman, Pedro Munhoz, Blackshear, Neil Magny, Amanda Lemos, and Sean O'Malley.
I'm going to roll with Pedro Munhoz.
Pedro Munhoz, okay, on a 265 there. In terms of my underdog, now I didn't pick him, but I do think that this fight can go either way. It is the Ultimate Fighter finale, Hubbard versus Kurt Holobaugh. I picked Hubbard, but I mean, Kurt Holobaugh winning would not surprise me at all as kind of the more dangerous striker as opposed to the better tactician and decision maker in Austin Hubbard. So I'm going to say Kurt Holobaugh does have a chance here as an underdog, and he's probably going to be my pick as a underdog of the card. In terms of parlay action, what are you taking a look at?
Okay, I'm looking at Aljamain Sterling. I'm looking at Natália Silva, and I'm looking at Ian Garry.
All right, so
Probably
those
just a flip here.
Yep, the flips are very important. So that's a 2.10. $100 is going to return you $210 for our bigger bettors. $250 is going to return a total of $525. My picks that I'm looking at, it's in a similar tone, but different fights to that point. I'm looking at Andrea Petroski. I'm looking at Mario Bautista, and I am also looking at Ian Garry. That's going to be a 2.47. So $100 will return a total of 247. For our bigger bettors, $250 will return a total of 617. So let's end off on that note. This has been UFC 292, Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. Full card prediction video presented by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. Make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel here at Boxing MMA Picks. And most importantly, we want to hear from you in the comments. Do you think Sean O'Malley becomes the new champ? Do you think Amanda Lemos becomes the new champ? How do you feel about our predictions, about our parlays? What parlays are you potentially considering that you want some more commentary on, or even any props that you're looking at that you want to take a stab at? We're more than happy to have all of that conversation in the comments below. But of course, officially signing off, UFC 292, Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley, full card prediction video presented by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by Zan, I go by Harris in our usual fashion. Let's get this money.
Let's get it.